Hello and welcome back to the simulated 2024 F1 World Championship. This is round number 12 of 24 from Silverstone in Great Britain. It's the last of the European triple header and we're heading to my own backyard in the land of Great Britain, which at the moment really doesn't feel too great, but that's a discussion for another time. Here's how the driver's standings shape up after last time out at Austria. Charles Leclerc retakes the lead of the Drivers' Championship from Yuki Tsunoda, with Verstappen following close behind in third. Hamilton is keeping himself in the mix in fourth, with Lando Norris completing the top 5. Alonso separates the two McLarens, with Piastri now in P7, holding off Carlos Sainz in 8th. Ricciardo and Perez wrap up the top 10, separated by a solitary point. As for the constructors, Ferrari is now on top of the standings, with RB slipping to 2nd. Their sister team, Red Bull, follows them by only 4 points. McLaren head up a trio of Mercedes-powered cars, with the Works team in 5th and Aston Martin in 6th. Sauber leap up the standings to P7, with Williams and Alpine tied on points with 57. Haas still remain in last despite a few points finishes as of late. Compared to the actual standings, Verstappen continues to lead the championship and Lando Norris remains in P2, despite the two coming to blows in Austria. Leclerc remains in P3 despite a tricky weekend, with his teammate Sainz closing the gap. Perez remains in P5, although he is now only 6 points ahead of Piastri in 6th, with Russell only being a point further back in 7th after picking up the mess to win in Austria. Russell's teammate Hamilton solidifies P8, and Alonso and Tsunoda continue to wrap up the top 10. As for the constructors, Red Bull continue to lock down P1, but the gap between Ferrari and McLaren for P2 is now down to 23 points, with Mercedes now closing in on the pair of them. Aston Martin and RB are still holding down P5 and P6 respectively, but Haas jump Alpine to P7 after a very solid double points finish for the team. Williams and Sauber remain in the bottom 2 spots, with Sauber still the only team yet to score points. Now it's time to find out who will be racing as for the British GP. Bottas has been removed from the wheel, leaving 9 drivers left to be selected. Without further ado, let's spin the wheel and see who we shall be racing as around Silverstone. And, well, I knew it would happen sooner or later. Max Verstappen is our driver for this simulated GP. Will we produce a Verstappen-esque performance, or will we show a rare sign of weakness with the Dutchman? It's time for the British Grand Prix.
A one-time airfield fully owned by cars in this era. One of the finest ribbons of racetrack anywhere on Earth. It's high speed, it's dramatic, it's Silverstone.
So here we are then, Silverstone British Grand Prix, driving as Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. The current championship leader, the current championship holder, IRL, who is not leading championship or the holder of the championship in a simulated world, but nonetheless I have a feeling he will try and bounce back from not winning last year's simulated championship. And we start off in fine style here as we end up P1 after Q1, and we've lost from Q1. Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, George Russell in the Mercedes. I'm sure the home crowd will be very disappointed with that one. We've got the 2 Alpines of Ocon and Gasly in P18 and P19, and Hulkenberg is in P20. So one of the 3 British drivers is already out of qualifying after the first hurdle. And it is George Russell in the Mercedes. Carlos Sainz also down there as well. Big shock for him. We got a Ferrari and a Mercedes both out in Q1. Not ideal for the pair of them, but nonetheless we move on to Q2. Setting our lap time here as per usual. Still doing very well. Still getting P1 in Q2, so we're easily through to Q3. Very Verstappen-esque. And we've lost from Q2, Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton in the other Mercedes is out in Q2, Daniel Ricciardo in P14, and Logan Sargent in P15. So 2 of the 3 British drivers are now out after 2 of the 3 qualifying sessions, which leaves only Lando Norris in the McLaren as the only British driver remaining in qualifying. So, home fans don't have much to cheer about right now, but at least they got one of their drivers into the last session of qualifying. As we begin our Q3 lap now, we got Alonso in 6th, Piastri in 7th up there, Tsunoda in 8th, and Magnussen in 9th. It's very good stuff. as we progress through the first sector here. Heading down the straight here. The first DRS zone, not the second one. It used to be a DRS zone down the main straight, but it got removed. The Hamilton straight, I believe it's called now. As we head now to the end of the old Silverstone layout lap. I remember the start-finish straight being down here. You can actually see the old pit lane there on the right-hand side. As we move on to Cups now, I'm sure Verstappen has very fond memories of this corner. Not really, but we head through there pretty much flat, thanks to the handling model. I think it's flat IRL anyway, but now we go through Maggots and Beckett's here. Still an interesting combination of corners, especially their names. And then we move on to the Hangar Straight, I believe it's called, heading towards Stowe. Setting purples everywhere we go. We're looking very certain for a pole position around Silverstone, but there's plenty of time for me to mess it up as we head through Stowe now into the club section to finish up the lap. Hit our braking point, very good. Hitting the apexes, could do a lot better there, but I'm not very good at this game. As we move on to the final corner. And yes, we got pole position for the British Grand Prix, disappointing everyone around the circuit, I'm sure. So, yes, Max Verstappen in first, Charles Leclerc in second, Lando Norris does end up third for McLaren, so the British fans do have something to cheer about. Perez in fourth, Lance Stroll fifth, Alexander Albon sixth in the Williams, a very good result for him. Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martins in seventh, Oscar Piastri is in eighth, Yuki Tsunoda in ninth, and Kevin Magnussen in the Haas rounds up the top 10. And with me having 7 tenths to second place, that is very ominous for the race. But remember, they do have better race pace, the AI. So without further ado, let's move on to the British Grand Prix.
Britain has returned the highest number of F1 World Champions of any country. This place takes its motor racing very seriously. Welcome to the British Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of Silverstone Circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years, with Turn 1 now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Norris, Perez, Stroll, Albon, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Joe, Bottas, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Sargent, Sainz, Russell, Ocon, Gasly, and Nico Hülkenberg rounds off the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. We welcome to the commentary box Anthony Davidson. I'm Alex Jakes. We're both looking forward to a really intriguing race today. Now, those final hours before a race, did you have a routine?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
I don't know why every time I do these races they're talking about pre-race rituals, whatever. It's the same every time. But nonetheless, we're on the grid for the British Grand Prix, starting from pole position. Looking at a strategy here, I don't know why it wants to put so much fuel into my car. I bump it down quite a bit. It wants me to do a one-stop strategy. It turns out the tyres aren't very... Turns out the wear for the tyres is actually better than I expected. But we are going to go with the one-stop, see how it goes. We can change to a two-stop if we need to on the fly. And yeah, the formation lap is underway. Everyone's starting on the soft tyre, the C3 soft. That would explain why the strategy is only one stop, because we want the hardest compounds of tyre. which probably doesn't bode well for the actual race itself coming up on Sunday, but nonetheless, we will see how that goes. British Grand Prix usually tends to produce some good races. Hopefully it's the same here, and hopefully it's the same in real life as well. Never been to a British Grand Prix, and probably not going to anytime soon, considering the ticket prices are actually extortionate. I need to actually sell like 3 of my body parts to buy a ticket for the race, but whatever. That's fine. I can just watch it on telly. It's fine. But yeah, we got Leclerc beside us, Norris behind us. Verstappen and Norris coming to blows, obviously, at the Austrian Grand Prix in real life. Hopefully that doesn't happen in Silverstone as well, but we shall see as we move on to the grid now. 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go. The lights held pretty long there as we get a good start. And Perez also gets a good start, jumping Norris and maybe Leclerc going around the outside of him in turn 1, taking the inside into turn 2. And Perez does take the 2nd position, but Leclerc comes back at him, going into the sequence of corners in the first sector here as they battle side by side. Perez and Leclerc going through the entirety of Sector 1 near on side by side. As we go down the straight here at the end of Sector 1, I can't remember what the straight name is called, I'm sorry. But it's still side by side. Perez has the inside going into the next corner, breaks a little bit later and takes the position away from Leclerc. Perez making up 2 spots, and now we have a Red Bull 1-2 in our hands. As we aim to clear the 1 second mark before the 2nd lap so we get out of the DRS. We are very close to that, but Perez is still just within, but we still have half a lap to do that. As Leclerc looks down the inside at Copse, remembering what happened to Verstappen in 2021, he decides better of it and backs out. Perez still in 2nd, still a Red Bull 1-2. Norris has slipped down to 4th position. And Albon actually up to 5th as well. Alonso falling down a little bit there. We've got the Aston Martins are 6th and 7th. With Piastri at 8th, Tsunoda at 9th, and Magnussen rounding at the top 10. Hamilton actually making a good start from P13, I think it was. He actually has cleared both the Saubers and is now at the P11. So, yeah, some changes up and down the field, but the one constant has been Verstappen in the lead of this race. Very good stuff. We actually cleared the 2nd marker, so now it's our time to actually push as we got a massive DRS train going down the order. So we skipped to lap 4 now. We made up 3.2 seconds. Leclerc's actually got ahead of Perez again, going on to lap 4. But as we come into Copse, it looks like he's got an issue. He's slowing down, pulling to the inside, off the track, and Leclerc, after only 4 laps of running, is out of the British Grand Prix. Our current simulated championship leader is out of this race. Not very good for him or for Ferrari, and his lead is definitely going to be evaporated by the end of this race. As we move on to lap 9 now. And as you can see on the map, we've moved quite far ahead of everyone else, but everyone else is causing the world's longest ERS/DRS train possible. Literally every single other car, apart from us, is involved in this train, which means no one can overtake each other apart from 2nd and 3rd, which is Perez and Norris. So, moving on to lap 15 now, as you can see, Norris actually re-overtaking Perez there. We saw he was actually in 2nd place there. Perez overtaking on lap 9. These two have basically been swapping positions for the last like 10 or so laps. And you can see the train is absolutely ridiculous. Codemasters really need to fix this. They said they they said they addressed the ERS issue in the last patch, but clearly they haven't. As we move on to lap 19 now, as we see Valtteri Bottas, the last time out winner in Austria, who is also now slowing down after Copse. It seems like we got our 2nd retirement of the day. Valtteri Bottas, our race winner from Austria, is out of the British Grand Prix. A bitter blow there for Kick Sauber, who did very well in Austria with the win, and also Zhou Guanyu getting a whole load of points as well, I believe. So, yeah, unfortunate for Bottas, but his engine is let go. The Ferrari engine is let go. Actually, Zhou did not get any points last time out. He actually retired from both the sprint and the main race. As we see Norris now making a mistake into Stowe, losing 3 positions to Perez, Albon, and Alonso. So, Albon now in the top 3 for Williams. Very good stuff there for the Williams driver. Hopefully Williams can get a good result here today with Albon. Speaking of Albon, he is the first of the front runners to make a pit stop here on lap 22/23. First one to make the call. Maybe get an undercut perhaps on Perez. as the Williams crew make the stop. Seems like a very simple, easy stop there for the Williams crew, and Albert on his way. But remember, the pit lane here is very long. I think it's one of the longest, if not the longest pit lanes on the calendar. As we go on to lap 24 now, we decide to come in for our one and only pit stop. We slow down to the 37 mph speed limit, put the pit limiter on, and we're on our way to put on the medium tyres. As you can see, our soft tyres didn't do very well. The front left was only front left went up to 58% here. As we go into the pits now and put on our set of mediums, considering our soft tyre wear, it should be able to make it through to the end, but we shall see. As we are trundling down the pit lane now, which does allow Hamilton in the Mercedes to take the lead briefly, which will give some comfort to the British crowd, but I'm sure they would have expected more. But we have kind of ran away with this race so far. We are producing a very much a Verstappen-esque performance with 2023 / the first few races of 2024. So, yes, unfortunately for the British crowd, Verstappen is very much dominating this race. As we see the top three now also come in for their pit stops on the lap afterwards, which is Hamilton, Joe, and Ocon, which allows us to basically retake the lead and pretty much stay there, because our nearest competitor, Perez, in the other Red Bull is 17.5 seconds behind us at this point, which is ridiculous. As we see Magnussen now in P7, making a mistake going into the sequence of corners in the first sector. Again, I can't remember the name, but he loses a few positions to Stroll and Hamilton, and Russell now holding Alpha around the outside. Russell will get DRS, actually gets a better launch coming out the small left-hand kink there, going down the straight, and yeah, Russell makes it very easy, and Magnussen ends up losing 3 positions because of his one little lockup. We see a lot of lockups with the AI, and we see another one now with Alonso now locking up and losing a whole bunch of positions. Losing positions to Albon and then Norris, and also Tsunoda having a look around the outside as well. The two going side by side down the Hamilton straight into turn 1. Alonso does have the inside, but Tsunoda sticking around the outside. Very good racing from the pair of them. As we go into the sequence of corners here, Alonso having the inside on the right-hander, but Tsunoda sticks around the outside, which gives him the inside on the next corner. But I believe Alonso may get the DRS here as we come around the left-hand kink there. And sure enough, Alonso does get the DRS, which gives him a straight line speed advantage. And Alonso keeps the position. And Russell even has a look now at Tsunoda going into... I can't remember the name of these corners. I'm so sorry. I'm not a true F1 fan. But, yeah, pretty much holding position, apart from Alonso losing a few positions, obviously. But nonetheless, Perez now going into the club section. Also makes the same mistake as Alonso, locking up going into club. But he does keep the position, but Norris is now right back on his tail. He was out of DRS range there for a little while, but yes. As we see Alonso now, who makes the same mistake again on lap 39. 2 lockups in a row there for Alonso going into club. And he's lost a few positions now, again to Tsunoda and to Russell. And now he's side by side with his teammate Stroll. As we move on to lap 40 now, we're still side by side, going for the first sequence of corners, and Hamilton behind them is having a sniff as well. As we see the 2 Aston Martins dueling out here for P7. Stroll on the inside there, hopefully getting position from Alonso. They're still side by side, but Hamilton now, both DRS on the pair of them, gets the slipstream, moves to the inside, it's 3 wide going into the corner, and Hamilton takes the position from both the Aston Martins near on. As we go around the outside of the corner, it's still 3 wide. Alonso backs out. Stroll still on the inside of Hamilton, but Hamilton gets a better drive coming out the corner, going down the straight into Stowe, and Hamilton makes a double overtake on both the Aston Martins and moves up to P7. What a move there from the British driver, and I'm sure that would have sent the fans into raptures. As we are on lap 50 now, we got over half a minute gap ahead to Norris and Perez. And I decide to have a little bit of fun because I know I can come in the pits and still retain the lead. So I actually come in again for a set of soft tyres to see how fast my fastest lap truly can be. I don't actually have a new set of soft tyres, so I had to use a used set from qualifying, I believe. But we do put on the softs, And yeah, we should come out with a healthy gap ahead of Norris and Perez, who are still battling it out for P2, by the way, along with Albon. Albon holding on to the pair of them, so it's very much a three-way fight for P2 between Norris, Perez, and Albon. So one of those guys is definitely not going to get on the podium. But who knows who it's going to be as we come out the pit lane now with the soft tyres on. We're going to build up the battery here on lap 51. We still have a healthy gap to the trio of cars behind us. And then now we move on to the final lap of the race. And this is now where we basically give it everything to see how fast we can truly go around the circuit in race trim. We have a low amount of fuel, obviously. So it's pretty much charging the battery, getting those tyres on, and seeing how fast we can go. Very much pedal to the floor moment. We're 9 seconds ahead of Norris in second, Perez in P3, Albon in P4. Russell actually now at the P5 ahead of Tsunoda, but Tsunoda's still within DRS range, so that could be an interesting fight for P5 there. Along with Hamilton, basically everyone below Hamilton is also in DRS range as well, so Hamilton's definitely got look behind him here, as he's got both the Aston Martins and Magnussen in P10 in the Haas, so hopefully Haas getting another point to add to their repertoire, but that will probably not stop them from being in last, because they are very much behind Williams and Alpine currently. Speaking of Williams, they're definitely going to get some good points and jump ahead of Alpine in the standings. They're already ahead of Alpine in the standings due to results, but it should put some daylight between them and the French team. As we go through Maggots and Beckett's now, you can see we are very much pushing the car. Going down the hangar straight now. We don't have DRS obviously because no one's near us, but we have made up 1.7 seconds, 1.8 seconds now. Near on 2 seconds ahead of Norris over one lap, so we are definitely pushing on this lap here, and hopefully we will get another fastest lap as we go now into the club section for the final time. It's going to be Max Verstappen who wins the British Grand Prix, and it is our first repeat winner of the season, so the streak is over. The streak is over, no new winners. We had 11 different winners, 11 races. The streak is over. Verstappen wins the British Grand Prix and probably takes the lead of the championship as well, as George Russell gets driver of the day.
He has left the field behind. It is victory for Max Verstappen.
To do it as a team on home soil, that really means something special, and you can see how much it means to them, the drivers involved as well. Great job by them today, of course, as always, but for the fans watching on too, a great display of teamwork here today.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So yeah, Max Verstappen ends up winning the British Grand Prix. It's actually a Red Bull 1-2 with Perez ending up in P2 and Norris saving face for the British crowd by getting on the podium in P3, which means Albon did miss out just about for the podium spots, which is very unfortunate for him, but still a great result for Williams regardless. But yeah, Red Bull showing why they are the dominant force in F1 right now with another 1-2 finish. I think this is the first 1-2 finish of the simulated season actually, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, there we go. After 52 laps of the British Grand Prix, it is Max Verstappen who takes P1. We set a fastest lap of 1:27.775, which is not far off our pole time actually. Sergio Perez in P2, Norris in P3, Albon 13 thousandths behind Lando Norris for P3. Very, very unfortunate for Albon. So close to a podium, but Norris just wins out in that battle. Tsunoda in P5. He may re-overtake Charles Leclerc in the championship, considering Charles Leclerc did not finish. Russell and Hamilton definitely recovering from their poor qualifying performances to get a double points finish for Mercedes in 6th and 7th respectively. Alonso in P8 after starting in P7. Stroll doing even worse. He started in P5 and ended up in P9. And then Kevin Magnussen rounds up the top 10, getting another point for Haas. And for the rest of the standings, we've got Zhou Guanyu in 11th. We had the two Australians of Ricciardo and Piastri in 12th and 13th. Carlos Sainz in P14. And then we've got two Alpines of Gasly and Ocon in 15th and 16th. Logan Sargent, P17. And then Nico Hülkenberg is the last of the classified finishers in P18. And we had two retirements, which was Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc. And there we go, that is the British Grand Prix done, that is the European triple header done. Next race is in 2 weeks' time, the Hungarian Grand Prix around the Hungaroring. It's the penultimate race before the summer break. We got that in the Belgian Grand Prix afterwards before the summer break. So hopefully you'll join me for those two. I do like Spa, Hungaroring not so much, but I can tolerate it going through the season because I've got to tolerate all these circuits going through the season. So yeah, Hungaroring, 2 weeks' time. I believe that's the 19th of July. So don't quote me on that. If it's incorrect, I'll flash up the actual date on the screen. But if it is what I'm thinking, then yeah, the 19th of July will be the Hungarian Grand Prix. I'm sorry, I stuttered so much. Hungarian Grand Prix, 2 weeks' time. Hopefully you'll look forward to that one. As for the standings after the British Grand Prix, Max Verstappen does indeed take the lead of the championship now. I think this is the first time he's actually taken the lead of the championship all season. I might be wrong. I think I am wrong because I think he did take the lead in after the first few rounds. Yuki Tsunoda moves ahead of Leclerc but still remains in second position. Leclerc falling down to third now thanks to his DNF here in Silverstone. Hamilton in fourth, Norris in fifth, only 6 points now behind Hamilton. Battle of the Brits there for P4 should be very interesting. Fernando Alonso in 6th, Sergio Perez now moves up to 7th ahead of Piastri, Albon and Sainz, who round up the top 10. As for the Constructors, Red Bull Racing now take the lead of the championship as well, so Red Bull now back to where they expected to be at the top of the standings. They are now 27 points ahead of Ferrari, who moved down to P2. RB kind of slipping back now, down to P3 with McLaren closing in now in P4, only 14 points behind them. Mercedes not too far behind either, 22 points behind McLaren in P5, with Aston Martin a further 16 points back in P6. Kick Sauber remain in 7th despite not getting any points here today. Williams get 12 points clear of Alpine thanks to Albon's 4th place finish. They have 69 points, nice. Alpine remain in 9th with 57 points, and Haas, despite getting a point with Kevin Magnussen today, are still 31 points behind Alpine in last place. And there we go, that is the British Grand Prix done and dusted. Hopefully you enjoyed this race. Not the most entertaining of races, I will admit, from my end, but hopefully you'll get some enjoyment out of it. The championship is starting to look like it's going back in Verstappen's favour, but anything can change in the world of Formula 1. So hopefully you will join me for the future races as well. We're halfway through the season now. 12 races down, 12 races to go. Next one in Hungary. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. And hopefully I'll see you all next time.